In this video we're going to have a look at combining separate source images to create a black and white expression portrait. Now I'll show you what that is in just a second, but let's have a look at some of these start images here. This little girl's got some amazing expressions, and each expression sums up a different part of her personality, but it would be really cool if we could combine them all together in a single image to sum up something about our subject. And here's what we're going to end up with: a nice expression portrait showing different facets of the same subject. Before I talk you through this particular portrait technique, let me just show you the layers palette to give you an idea of the techniques you're going to pick up. Here we have three separate portraits on separate layers. If I turn this layer off, you can see the two portraits on layer 2 and layer 1. But we've got a layer mask that's on this top layer here that's actually hiding parts of the layer to reveal the hair and to hide parts of the girl on the layer below. Let me just shift click on the mask to hide it, and then you can see the edge of the frame here. But the mask, if I click again, is actually hiding the edge of the frame of the girl, allowing us to see the overlapping girl on the layer below. Let me just alt-click on the mask to show you what that's doing. The black strokes on the mask are making this top layer transparent to reveal the details on the layer below. So you can see we've got some very selective details here around the shoulder and more rough and ready brush strokes just to hide the edge of the top layer's frame to reveal the girl on the layer below. It'll make more sense when you actually do this yourself, but I want to give you a clue as to what you're going to end up using. So let me just click back to show the layer masks in action. So, as well as learning how to composite three images together into a single document, I'm also going to show you how to remove the color information with the hue saturation adjustment layer. Let me take that away for the moment. You can see the original images. And once you've desaturated the shot, you'll need to tweak the levels because they're fairly flat lit, these shots, so the grayscale image has a very flat contrast. There's not a huge difference between the blackest shadows and the brightest highlights, but we can change all that using a levels adjustment layer to remap the shadows and highlights to give them much whiter highlights and blacker shadows. But let's begin by opening our three start images. You'll find Expression Start 01, Expression Start 02 and Expression Start 03. But we're going to begin with the Start 1 image. So the first thing to do is to unlock the background layer here. If you haven't got the layers palette open, you can go to Window, Layers, or drag it from the panel bin, which is usually at the left. I've hidden that to make more space. And once you can see the layers palette, double click on the background layer, and then you'll see a new layer icon appear like this. Just click OK, and that will unlock the layer. The padlock icon disappears and it's now editable. To make more space for our other portraits, we're going to increase the canvas size. It's important not to do the image size, otherwise she'll become distorted. So if you go up to Image and choose Resize and go to Canvas Size, you can create much more space. Let me bring up the window there so you can see what you're going to get. And by default it will be in centimeters most likely, but you can change that to a percentage, and you can then increase the width of the canvas by typing in a percentage of 250. That's slightly wider than we need, but we're going to crop the image at the end just to fine tune it and get rid of any transparent edges. So once you've got 250% in there, click OK. Make sure you've got the anchor in the middle there, otherwise it'll add the canvas to the left or to the right of the picture. But if you leave it in the middle like so, click OK, and there you have a nice transparent edge. I'm just going to go to the zoom tool, right click and choose fit on screen to show you the entire edge of our canvas. Now as I've got my three images open, Expression Start 1, 2 and 3, I can press Ctrl and Tab to cycle through the open images, which is a very good keyboard shortcut. So I'm going to do that till I get to Expression Start 2, and then I'm going to select all. You can see the marquee around the edge like so. Then I can copy this selection, edit copy, and then Control and Tab will cycle me back to the Expression Start 01 image with the extended canvas size, and then I can choose Edit Paste to paste the copied layer in as layer 1. And we're going to pop that behind layer 0 in just a second, but first of all I'm going to grab the Move tool, drag it to the left just so they're overlapping, and then drag it below so it's actually behind this layer. Now it's quite handy to be able to overlap more accurately by clicking on layer 0 and then just pressing 5, and that gives you an opacity of 50%, and you can then see, if we go back to layer 1, exactly how the twins are overlapping, and you can see they're kind of just overlapping at the shoulder there. Go back to layer 0 again and press 0 to get 100%, or you could just click here and drag this to the right, and that's just a good keyboard shortcut or a good tip to help you overlap more accurately. Now we need to hide some of this black area here to reveal the girl on the layer below, but we don't need to select all of this black and remove it because it would be really fiddly to select the girl's hair, so we can just target the bits that we need to edit. To do that, I'm just going to click with the zoom tool to zoom in more closely. Spacebar gives you the hand tool temporarily so you can move the image around. And then I'm going to grab a tool from the lassos here and go to the magnetic lasso. You can leave that on the defaults of a 0 feather with 10 pixels and contrast 10, and that should work fine with a high contrast area like this. So let's click here to place the first point by the shoulder, and as you move up, I'm not clicking at all, it's placing anchor points automatically around the contrasting shoulder. When you get up to around about here, click, and then you can move up to select some of the black area. Click again, and now move down, and it should automatically find the edge of the black fairly easily. And click again at the bottom, move to the first point, and click to complete the selection, and there you'll have a selection marquee, like so. Now once you've made your selection, it's important that you go to Select Inverse to invert it, and now it's selecting the outside area rather than this area in the middle. We can then use the selection we've made to create a layer mask that's going to hide this section here and reveal the girl on the layer below. To do that, you click down here in Photoshop Elements 9, and this is the Add Layer Mask icon. This is a really useful new icon to have. So click, and there we have our layer mask, and you can see there that it's actually hiding this bit of black here all the way up to the edge of the selection that we made earlier. Let me just alt-click on the mask to show you it. There you go, there's the black selection there that's hiding the edge of the girl's frame. Now the cool thing about masks is we can modify them by using tools like the brush tool. So if I click here, choose a nice large brush like 300 pixels, nice soft edge. Make sure that we've got the foreground color set to black. So click on the mask, make sure the black is showing up here, the foreground. You can then just click and spray on the rest of this top layer, and you're actually making more transparent holes in it to reveal the girl on the layer below. Okay, I've zoomed in a little bit closer to see the edge of the frame here. Because the selection we made is a little bit sharp, we can fine-tune things using the brush. Let me go in a bit closer using Control and Plus. Okay, so there's a bit of a line there where the mask has actually got some of the original background from the top layer. So what I'm going to do is use the left square bracket to create a smaller black brush tip. And then if I just click and hold Shift, I can draw straight lines between the 2 points and just add a bit more black to the mask, and that just softens and hides that rather sharp black line. So this is a great way of fine-tuning the way the mask is behaving, and you can actually then hide some of that black border around the edge of your subject. I'm not worrying too much about the bottom of this frame because we're actually going to crop out some of the lower areas, but you can see how this is a great way to tidy up these lines that you might get. You can then open Expression Start 3, select and copy the girl and paste her into the main document. Pop her down on the bottom layer like so, and then target the top layer and use the magnetic lasso tool to select the edge of the frame like so. Now we're not going to inverse this time. What we're going to do is simply click on the mask once we've made the selection, and then edit fill the selection with black to hide the areas that it's actually overlapping on the top layer. So you can now see the girl on the layer below. We can Control D to deselect that, grab the brush tool, and then just spray a black brush over the rest of this top layer here just to hide the edge of the black frame to reveal more of the girl. And you can also see that we've got a bit of a line there, so I'm going to use a black brush just to tidy that up. There we go, I've got a small brush tip, and I'm just shift clicking to spray black on the mask here just to hide that sharp back line there, and then just spray to get rid of any fiddly bits down the bottom. So there we have our 3 separate layers. Z for the zoom tool, right click, fit on screen. So once you've finished your compositing, you're now ready to create a striking black and white expression portrait. First of all, by desaturating it, let's do that with hue saturation. We can then bring in the hue saturation adjustment layer like so, and take out the color by dragging this to -100. Now the contrast is very flat, we've got lots of greys, we don't have very bright whites or dark shadows, so what we're going to do is add another adjustment layer, go to levels, and this is one of my favourites because you can see the histogram doesn't quite go as bright as it can do, but we can brighten things up dramatically by remapping the highlights using this slider here. So if you take it to about 190, we've got really bright highlights now, and it's got a much better contrast. We can darken the shadows as well. If we take this to around about 22, then you can see the blacks are getting blacker, and we've now got a much higher contrast black and white portrait. Let me turn that off to show you the before, very bland and grey, but there's our high contrast expression portrait. let's just hit Tab to hide the floating windows. And finally, we can improve the composition and get tighter in on our three expressions using the crop tool. So C for the crop tool, just click and drag to draw a freehand crop, and then let's go up to around about here, and you're losing the transparent edges as well. Hit return, and here is a much tighter and more attractive cropped image.